Welcome back, everybody. I'm hoping that your families are all doing well, that your stomachs are full and your hearts are full as well, following all these family and friend gatherings that we've had. Nancy?
Yeah, welcome back to Conversations Over Coffee. And we're in January of 2022, and we're back doing a virtual session today just to keep everyone healthy and safe, and looking forward to our conversations today with Rebecca Chelene.
We're just going to be doing some talking about adjusting family mealtime because it is winter. And I know at my house, I do adjust our meal times according to the season. So Rebecca, would you start by just refreshing us a little bit on what SNAP Ed is?
Of course, and thank you for having me today. The Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program Education, or SNAP-Ed, is the educational component of the USDA's SNAP, a program that offers nutrition assistance to individuals and families with low incomes. And in my role, I get to teach groups about health, nutrition, and strategies to make their food dollars stretch further. So we cover a variety of topics from diet-related chronic disease prevention like type 2 diabetes prevention, to physical activity, gardening, and cooking classes. And I enjoy the range of people I get to work with, from kids to elders. And I have to mention that all of this work happens in collaboration with partner organizations, and I couldn't do it alone. And some of my partners include housing facilities, schools, churches, food shelves, and local vegetable growers.
Awesome. Rebecca, winter eating. Now, I tend to eat differently during the winter. I don't know about you, but I seem to my intake of fruits and vegetables is less during the winter months. And I think some of it may just be the issue of availability. There are not the gardens being harvested. We don't have the apple trees and berries to be picked. Perhaps it's just simply that we don't have access to some of those. But along with that, it might be some planning that's lacking.
Yeah, I agree. Winter in Minnesota means there's less fresh produce available. And like you said, at the same time, planning our meals or snacks can be a way to prioritize getting these key nutrients from fruits and vegetables on our plates. So I like to start with sharing that there's a notion that fresh fruits and vegetables are the healthiest or best options. And I want to kind of break that down a little bit. So especially in the winter months, our fresh produce comes from far away, and often it is more expensive, and it doesn't taste as good as it might in other seasons or as other options. So frozen and canned produce is a great option during this time. And I like to share with my participants that when produce comes from far away, it is often picked before it is ripe, and then it ripens on its journey to us. So from the moment a plant is picked, it actually begins to decrease in its nutritional value. However, when produce is frozen or canned, it's picked at its peak ripeness, and that means that its nutrients are locked in and they're available whenever you choose to eat it. So another advantage is frozen and canned produce. It is already rinsed and chopped, meaning it saves time in preparation of your meal. And a side note is that I recommend, if you're looking for canned vegetables, try to look for the low or no sodium varieties. And then when you're opting for fruit that is canned, look for fruit that is canned in 100% juice. And these are the most nutrient-rich options. And then speaking to planning meals, planning meals ahead of time means we can plan our meals to include all the food groups that we want. And then that way we can get a well-rounded eating pattern. And planning ahead, it really is one of the most effective ways to make sure we get the nutrients that we want.
So we need to build in planning time as well, right, Rebecca?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, Rebecca, I know many families transition to different foods during the winter, such as I'm great with crock pots and soups. I like warm soups, less uncooked foods, I would say. Is there any difference? And are there actual benefits in putting warm food on the table and beverages into our bodies?
That's a good question, and more complex than a simple yes or no. So the main takeaway I have for people is that eating both raw and cooked food, specifically vegetables, is good. Some vegetables increase their nutritional value when they're cooked, and other vegetables lose some of their nutrients when cooked. So it kind of depends. And at the same time, your body is able to absorb more nutrients and digest cooked vegetables more easily. So one example of vegetables that increase their value when cooked is, for example, with calcium. So heating releases bound calcium, making it more available for our body to absorb. So an example is spinach. Cooked spinach has 245 milligrams per cup of calcium compared to raw spinach that has only 30 milligrams per cup, which means when it's cooked, spinach has 8 times more calcium than when it's raw. And then other vegetables that release nutrients and antioxidants when cooked are tomatoes, mushrooms, potatoes, carrots, celery, and green beans. And the only caveat that I will share is that if your cooking method is boiling, you may risk losing some of the vitamins and minerals to the water, because boiling it takes it out. It's in the water. If you imagine dumping out that boiled water and it's colorful now because it has those nutrients there. So steaming or roasting helps to keep those nutrients inside the vegetables. And then on the other side, cooking can mean losing some water-soluble vitamins like vitamin C and B vitamins. So eating raw vegetables is also good. And some vegetables that specifically are really good raw are bell peppers, broccoli, onions, and garlic. So the main message is both raw and cooked vegetables are good in your eating pattern. And I like to share that the most important thing is preparing them so that you will eat them. So if you eat mostly cooked, it's fine because you're eating them, or raw, vice versa. The important thing is that you're eating them.
That's great. Thank you for that explanation. How about as far as the warmth in your body? Does that do anything, or is that just a feel-good thing for us? Like with warm beverages and warm soups?
Well, so cooking them helps with digestion, but specifically, I haven't found anything that science supports around warmth. I think psychologically, like you said, it's comforting. And so that is a benefit. If it's valuable to us psychologically, it makes us feel good, then it's valuable in that sense. So
okay, so keep doing what we're doing if it's working, right? I mentioned before the winter season that we have less local produce here in Minnesota, and that we can take advantage of the canned, frozen, and dried fruits as well.
If you Google seasonal produce in Minnesota, I'm sure you could find similar charts, but I like the one on minnesotagrown.com. It shows what months certain fruits and vegetables are available, and that can be really helpful for saving money and for finding produce that's at its peak ripeness.
Mm-hmm. Are there any foods, now this is just kind of off the cuff here, Rebecca, but any foods that we should be cognizant of taking in during the winter that might help us, that we might need more of, because of lack of vitamin D, things like that?
Yeah, vitamin D. Yep, you said it. So vitamin D is a nutrient we know in Minnesota and other places where we're not getting as much sunlight, that you can take in, a lot of foods that are supplemented or enriched with vitamin D. So some examples would be some fish like salmon, eggs. A lot of times you'll find like orange juice is fortified with vitamin D. And so paying attention to the nutrition labels, you can look for that. That is definitely a mineral in the winter months, that if that's something that you're concerned about, to look for that.
Thank you. Thanks for addressing that, Rebecca. I know that you and other professionals in the nutrition field that I've worked with have often talked about the food color wheel or the colorful plates. Would you expand on what that really means so that parents can aim for that as well?
Yeah, so like you said, there's a saying we should eat a rainbow. And this refers to getting a variety of colors on your plate. And specifically, going back to this, fruits and vegetables, right? And that's because the color of a fruit or a vegetable is linked to something called phytonutrients or plant nutrients. And phytonutrients have specific benefits to our bodies. So studies have shown that they play a great role in human health. So I'll touch on 4 specific ones, and I'll just share a little bit about each one. So beta carotene is found in orange and dark green leafy vegetables. Specifically, it's good for immune system health, vision, skin, bone health. So you could find this in pumpkin, sweet potatoes, carrots, winter squash, cantaloupe, apricots, spinach, collard greens, kale, broccoli. Lycopene, think red fruits and vegetables. And this one helps prevent cancer and promotes heart health. Examples are tomatoes, pink grapefruit, red peppers, watermelon. The third, lutein, this one is found in green veggies. So it's good for eye health, heart health, cancer prevention. Examples are collard greens, kale, spinach, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, lettuce, artichokes. And then the last one that I wanted to share is anthocyanins. And these are found in red and purple produce. They're good for blood vessel health and memory. So think blueberries, blackberries, plums, cranberries, raspberries, red onions, red potatoes, red radishes, and strawberries. So
Becca, the last couple of segments that we've done with Conversations Over Coffee, we've talked about food insecurities and having enough in our house to be able to feed our children and families. Are there some of those things that we should be aware of that would be really helpful just to keep in the cupboard? Can you talk to that a little bit about things that will stay for a long time, but are also very good just to have in the house?
Yeah, and so I hesitate to give specific food items because this will vary depending on the food culture of each family or individual household. But in general, I would say let's think about the 5 food groups. So think about vegetables, fruits, grains, protein, dairy. This might mean you have some canned or frozen fruits on hand, depending on freezer space. Canned and frozen vegetables that you like to make meals with. Grains that you normally use, maybe rice or noodles. And if you have freezer space, don't underestimate it. When meat or other foods are on sale, even bread or things that you might not think to freeze, if it's on sale and you have room, it's a good time to buy an extra thing or 2 and freeze it for the future. And then remember, dried fruits and nuts are a nutrient-rich snack that can last a long time on the shelf.
Love your suggestion just to watch for those things to be on sale. I do that as well. If you know that something's on sale, maybe buy an extra peanut butter or whatever. So those are great tips. Thank you, Rebecca. So in conclusion today, you mentioned to me earlier, so much of healthy eating will center around planning. We're going back to that word of planning, taking some time. You explained we often grab the grains and the carbs rather than the proteins and the veggies. Could you briefly touch on that before concluding?
Yes. So most people have a great idea of what foods are high or low in nutrients. So we know in general that fruits and vegetables are good for us. Most people have that understanding. The hard part is getting it on our plate. And so when we don't plan ahead, like you said, we end up choosing whatever we have, whatever's fast, whatever is easiest to prepare. So oftentimes that means we leave out the fruits and the vegetables. But if we can make it a routine to plan a few meals each week, we can intentionally plan for vegetables by putting them on our list. incorporating them into recipes and looking for them at the store, the food shelf, or other places we get our food.
All right, well, that concludes our segment of Conversations Over Coffee. Again, we thank you, Rebecca. You always bring so much to the table. And we appreciate you coming in and helping us with this segment today. And we hope to see everyone again at our next segment.
Thank you.
And again, we will post some of those resources and references that you referred to today on our website. So here's to you.
Thanks, Vicki.